As delegations meet inside at the annual UN climate negotiations in Brazil, protesters have gathered outside in Belem to demonstrate for more concrete action. A big march was held Saturday that included thousands of indigenous people and environmental activists. And that rally came after two earlier protests centered on indigenous rights disrupted the entrance to the conference earlier this week. To discuss all of this further, I'm joined on set by our international affairs editor, Rochelle Ferguson Bouyahi. So obviously, there's been a bit of anger in Belem. We're halfway through the summit. What are the takeaways so far?
Absolutely. Well, as you say, Catherine, anger outside and reflected in many senses, you might say, inside this conference in Belem, the COP30. We're at the halfway point, as you suggest. It's clear greater ambitions are needed, not to mention implementing some of the pledges that were put in place last time, which hasn't unfortunately been done. Now, in terms of what's being called for, several nations are pushing for stronger commitments. We know the usual suspects: cutting emissions, getting financial support to countries who are hardest hit by climate change, and of course this serious phasing out, I should say, of fossil fuels, which isn't happening in a number of countries. The question we can ask now, Catherine, is how much consideration is going to be given to those issues when the high-level leaders take over for the last week of this summit, because we know it's running up to the 21st of November. Just a reminder that the last statements that came out at the end of the last few COPs have ultimately been unfulfilled. Rich countries still needing to give more to poorer countries to help them cope with climate change. According to the 2015 Paris Accord, countries were supposed to have submitted climate fighting, carbon curbing plans for every 5 years. So far, 116 of 193 nations have filled their objectives, you might say, for this year. The problem is, according to the UN and scientists, that the objectives were not very ambitious to begin with. And, a lot of scientists saying that if you calculate those latest pledges, they barely reduce future projections for the Earth's warming. So as you can imagine, Catherine, a great deal of work still yet to be done.
And what stands out at this COP30 summit?
Well, there are several things that stand out, and you might want to start with the United States. Their absence is the elephant in the room. Just in September at the UN, Donald Trump once again issued a climate skeptical point of view, saying that this is a huge con, and that not only would he not be there, but no delegation from the US would be there. So that's kind of one point that stands out. It's also interesting to note that the US has recently given, rolled back some restrictions when it comes to oil, to gas, and to coal. And President Trump has also given some tax breaks for fossil fuel firms quite recently as well. So that gives you a pretty clear stance of where the United States stands on this. What has come out of this is China's role when it comes to this cleaner energy transition. Now, just a point, China is still the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gases. That hasn't stopped them, though, wanting to have a leadership, a steady and reliable partnership when it comes to global energy transition. Now, that is in clear contrast to just 10 years ago when China, blamed the West for climate change, saying it was a Western construct and that ultimately it was supposed to reduce China's power globally. In September, though, they came out and said that they would commit to reducing greenhouse gases by up to 10% by 2035. China has also, you might say, sparked something of an energy revolution. They've reduced renewable energy prices a great deal. And you'll see on this document just behind that 80% of solar panels are now produced by China. So they essentially have monopolized this market. The impact of that, Catherine, has been that they've been able to plummet prices when it comes to solar panels. So that is really beneficial all round on a global scale. In terms of tackling batteries, vehicles and wind turbines, China is also a leader in that. Just to give you a solid statistic there, last month China broke a new record. Electric and hybrid vehicles now account for 52% of the cars that are sold in China. That's compared to 20% in 2024. China producing then 70% of electric vehicles. They say, look, we don't just want to help China when it comes to the energy transition, but we'd also like to help other countries who maybe have less means to work on their climate transition. So you asked me at the start, Catherine, what stands out from this. I think China's leadership role when when it comes to energy transition cannot be denied.
Rochelle, thank you so much for your analysis. That's France 24's Rochelle Ferguson Bouyahi from the International Affairs Desk.